Okay, so I've opened up PHP so we're going to be sort of administering our database. Let's have a look at what we've already got stored. Now, your database could obviously be different. You could be using it for different purposes. Mine is a basic login database, so this information that's stored about users is going to help us log in. Now, that's irrelevant for now. We've got an ID of 6 for Alex and an ID of 7 for Dale. Now, this is a unique incrementing value. So what we could now do is modify our generate.php file to take in a user's ID, and what that's going to do is it's going to return their email address as we have just by typing it in here. So let's just close the source here. So the first thing we need to do is connect to our database. So let's go ahead and just quickly connect to our database. We're going to say MySQL connect. Now this is very rough, so don't follow my example in this sense. There is another tutorial about connecting to a database. So root MySQL select DB. So what we're doing now is we're selecting the database, which I believe is called A_database. So A_database. Now let's perform a query, and this is going to be MySQL query, and we can say select email. So we're selecting the email field, which is here. So select email from so what's our table's called our table's called users. So select email from users, where ID equals, and we want to specify the ID of the user, and that's going to be taken in. Let's copy and paste this up here. So query equals MySQL query select mail. So our ID here is going to be, we'll just call this ID for now. What I'm going to do is add just some security onto this. So I'm going to enclose this in MySQL real escape string to help prevent SQL injection. Okay, so if is set get, and this time we're going to get the value ID, and we're now going to say ID equals $_get ID. So now let me briefly take you through what I've done. I've connected to the database using connected to the server, the MySQL server, using my credentials. Then I've selected my database. Now I'm checking for an ID input. The ID is going to equal the input that we've specified using our get. Otherwise, email is going to say no email specified once again. So down here what we can do is perform our query, which we've performed. Now we should retrieve some information back. So I'm going to say query result is equal to MySQL result. Now we can specify the query that we executed. And we can also specify the row, which is going to be 0, because we're only going to retrieve one row, and then the field here, so that's going to be email. So the query that we performed here, the row, which is going to be the 0 row, which is the only row that's been returned, and email there. So what we could do is have checks in here to check if this exists, or if the ID exists. I suppose we could quickly do that now. If MySQL num rows query is greater than or equal to 1, which it will never be greater than 1, we can include this check anyway, this comparison anyway, and get the result. Otherwise, email equals ID not found. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the name of this query here, this variable here, to email, because the value that we're returning from this MySQL result function is going to be the email address of the user. Therefore, now what's going to happen is our script is going to run as normal. So let's go through this again, just so you make sure you entirely understand. We're connecting to our database, or connecting to our server, selecting our database, checking if this ID value, which we previously had, let's go back to our source, we previously had as email equals, this will now read ID equals, and then we're going to specify a specific ID. then the ID variable here is equal to what we've specified. Otherwise, email equals no email specified as we did before. Now what we're doing is we're performing a query. In fact, we're going to perform this query here inside here, because otherwise there's no need to continue, and we'll change this to no ID specified. So sorry if that's confused you. Let's bring this down to make it a bit easier to read. So if we have set this ID thing, then we complete a query. So query is selecting email, so we're selecting one field from the users table where our ID equals the ID that we've specified, so ID up here, ID up there. MySQL real escape string for a bit of security against SQL injection. Now we're checking if the rows returned are greater than or equal to 1. So if they are greater than or equal to 1, which means that we have successfully retrieved an email value, we retrieve this value by using the MySQL result function, our query that we've run up here, 0 row, which is the only row that's been returned, and we're retrieving the email field. Otherwise, email equals ID not found. Then we come down here and we do our checks as I've already explained in the tutorial. So let's test this out after that long mouthful of explaining. Let's go back to index.php. Let's first of all not specify and see if we return with the correct error. You'll see no ID specified. So now let's go in and say ID equals. Now the ID that we have in the database, the two IDs, we have 6 and 7. So let's specify this to 10 because that doesn't exist. So we should, when we refresh our page, retrieve the result saying that the ID has not been found. So ID not found, so that's fine, it works. Now let's go back and do it sensibly, so we can say 6. Now what this should now do is retrieve the email address of user 6, and that is alex@somedomain.com. So let's go over to our page and refresh, and we retrieve alex@somedomain.com. So not only are we converting this to text, we're securely doing it, because now if we look at our page source, the email address doesn't exist anywhere in this code. Okay, so our bots are going to find it harder to pick up a plain text email value. So let's just try it with 7, which is Dale's email address, and then the tutorial will be over. So let's refresh, and you can see that's changed to dale@somedomain.com. So that's a little bit about why you should use this method as much as possible, and a really quick and easy way to do it. Play around with the code, make it your own, change colours, change font sizes, and I wish you all the best of luck with creating this because our functions do get a bit tricky.